folks, I'm L.A. Little and this is your daily TA wrap, where we take a look at these markets from a neoclassical perspective and ask ourselves what happened today and what does it tell us about tomorrow. You know, I do this show 4 times a week, Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of what is a beautiful Rocky Mountains. Folks, I'm glad you could join me. You know, last night I did a little monologue at the beginning talking about the Federal Reserve and the nonsense sometimes that you hear. I didn't put up the quote tonight, but, you know, Yellen comes out and gives another one today saying that, you know, you can't really tighten right now. I mean, I'm paraphrasing, but you can't really tighten right now because there really isn't much in the toolbox. If we begin to tighten and the economy falters, I mean, we're already at 0 interest rates. Yeah. You know, Alan Greenspan put us at low interest rates for a long extended period of time. And what did that cause? The housing bubble, right? When we came out, I mean, just think back about it. The 1990s, the end of the 90s, remember the tech boom? Remember the dot-com boom when you were counting eyeballs instead of money? Remember how we shot up to some ridiculous number on the NASDAQ, 5,800 or something? All of that, when it came crashing down, Greenspan took rates to nothing almost, right? Wasn't QE back then because rates were up at, you know, I think they were like 6% or something. Took them almost to, I think it was 1%, and he kept them there. And the people just used their houses for ATMs. Remember all that stuff? Well, what are we doing now? Now we got interest rates at 0. If there is a recession, you know, in other words, if the economy does begin to sputter, what are they going to do next? Has anybody thought about that? I mean, what the heck are we going to do? Of course, that doesn't matter tonight. Doesn't matter today because we just keep going up. Right now, none of that matters. S&Ps, they tacked on 8, almost 8.5, 1790. The industrial's up another 55 tonight, 15,876. These are all-time highs. Composite, new high, 39.72 3/4. NDX, new high, 9.5 higher, 34.15. Only the Russell, flat, 111. Or 1,111 and a half. The Russell, though, is gearing up to try to make its move. Going to have to play catch up. You got the breakouts we talked about on the NDX and the NASDAQ. Let's go look at the charts and see how this is going. Gold got the move we were thinking it would. The dollar was flat. Matter of fact, we were pretty much green across the board. It didn't really matter where you looked. Everything was heading higher. Here's the S&Ps. So, you know, what we were talking about before is that we wanted to see the S&Ps push over and begin to extend. The pushover was yesterday. Here's that breakout. Suspect, yeah, but it could come back. But no, it's starting to extend higher. It's exactly what you want to see. That's exactly what's happening. Nothing wrong with that picture. Volume, yeah, it doesn't really matter at this point. There's no sellers. It's not that buyers are lining up to buy. It's just that nobody's going to sell what they got. And there's a few extra buyers out there to push prices higher. Same thing here. Actually, you got a volume came in today. I didn't notice that on the Dow Jones pushing higher. Right? If we get a big volume expansion, I get worried. But a little bit of volume, that's okay. And what I mean by that, and I'll show you in another chart later, is that usually the way those big volume pushes as you're going to highs, what they're telling you usually in the neoclassical perspective is that you're probably setting up range trades. Here's the NASDAQ. Now the NASDAQ was trying to get over the high. That high, let me get this up higher here. That high was 39.6671. The NASDAQ trades to 39.72. That looks to me like we're over the highs. So that's a breakout. Volume expanding a little bit. So let's see, is that going to be with volume? 19.2, 19, yeah, that's going to be a confirmed breakout on the NASDAQ. NDX, if we look at it, we got a breakout as well. You can see the resistance zone that was up there, and that one also is going to be confirmed. Russell, now the Russell is the only one that's lagging now. So you got breakouts on 4 of the 5. The Russell is the only one. But, you know, take a close look at where the Russell is and what it's doing. This top, it already got over that yesterday, right? The next ledge, it's dealing with it now. What's left? This big bar. It's going to attack that big bar. Yeah, it doesn't have any volume compared to what it did. But, you know, with everything else up here, you got to believe this one's going to go right up there, attack it just like the rest, right? I expect you're going to see the Russell play catch up. So that's all the indexes. 4 out of 5 telling you higher. Actually, 5 out of 5. The Russell is actually doing what it needs to do. It's just lagging. Now, the Russell led most of the year, so I guess lagging's okay for a little while. But, you know, if you look at what's happening, you got breakouts. Those breakouts are sticking, and we're actually pushing higher on them. Yeah, we'll get some sort of a retrace here somewhere, but right now, you know, it's all up. In the year of up, we've got another month or 2 of up to go, I guess. So let's go to the sectors. Sectors breaking out. So this is the transports. Transports, really no volume down here, but it is a breakout over that high. You didn't go 6 bars, so you really don't have a swing point high breakout. But one thing we talked about, and we'll look at this on each of these charts. I'm not going to draw it on each of them. But one thing we talked about is you've got ABCD structures now. This one is from here, and actually whatever that low is, all the way up, right? And so you've got large ABCD structures in place on the indexes as well as many of these sectors. One sector that couldn't get going today was the semis. Semis had volume coming out of it again. Now the semis are stuck in this big range. The semis are stuck in this range because we keep getting blow-ups in some of the companies inside of it. You know, this range is roughly up here. You know, there's a smaller one down in this area, but we're still stuck in this range. I expect that they're going to go sideways for a little bit longer given the volume flows, but they will probably play catch up as well as money rotates to them later in the cycle, which is something we can actually watch for. XLB, breakout over the highs, ABCD structure, A, B point here, C point, ABCD structures all over the place. XLE getting ready to break out. Not over it yet. This is the one that looked like it wanted to break down. Now it's going up to test the highs. Looks to me like oil reversed today. You got over the big bar here today too, which is a good thing. So you had this large bar, right? Today it trades over that bar. That's a breakout. That one wants to go higher as well. It's going to at least test the highs. Another one that we've talked about that was lagging forever and now is getting ready to lead is the XLF. We've seen it in some of the subsectors within this group. The volume here looks like it's good. 34.8 going into 33.15. It's got the volume. It's on a Friday. Tomorrow's Friday. You've had a good week. I expect you're going to see this thing break out tomorrow. XLI, one of the strongest sectors, just continues to leg higher. Really nothing wrong here. Volume coming into it. And it's fascinating because XLI is like an early cycle sector. And we're 4 years, almost, what is it, 4 years? Yeah, 4 years into a quote-unquote bull market, and now the XLI is starting to lead. I'm not sure what that tells us other than there's more up to go. Here we go, XLK, even with the Cisco blow up today, and we'll talk about that in a minute. That one still legs higher. XLP, this is rotation kind of money coming in. They want to be safe. safe, not sorry. They don't want to leave the market, yet they want to do it in a safe way. What do? You rotate into stuff that should hold. That's ABC structure on the way up as well. Let's see about the utilities. I believe even the utilities are trying to join the party here. And leg higher as well. Yeah, they're going for their highs. XLV, that one actually looking really good. You got a suspect breakout starting to leg higher though. So what you would like to see, and these are ABCD structures as well, each one of them. You can actually see the ABCD structures very easily here. Up to there, back down to here, right, and up again. So that one's going to leg up into this area somewhere where it's trying to go. You basically have the length of this bar, the length of that bar, although I do it a little bit differently in that I look at percentages, which make difference when you have large percentage moves. These are not large percentage moves, so the length of the first bar is typically about the same as the second. What I would like to see myself, and the market may provide it, is some sort of a retrace back into an area like this to buy. Once you get the confirmed break and you come back, you can see how it comes back. If the sellers aren't there, which I suspect will be the case, then you can leg higher off of that and you can actually get an entry. XLY also legs up. It got its breakout, well, not breakout, it got a push above the previous highs yesterday, legs higher today. All of them, I don't see any of them showing any weakness. Matter of fact, we're looking for more moves to the top side, which is what I was talking about last night. Let's look at the OX markets and see if there's anything of interest there. Let's start with the dollar. The dollar had another sideways day, doesn't want to give it up. Okay, let me look at the FXE. So a dollar just won't come back in. FXE can't go up. They're both hung right in the middle, so there's not much you can do with them. But it does look to me like the dollar is going to work higher. Let's go to the gold market. You know, I write articles on a regular basis. Those articles show up in Minuville. They show up in Market Watch. I'm starting to write on another site fairly soon. I talked about gold back on, what, the 14th. So last week, they gave buy signals. No, it's the 14th of this week. Excuse me. That was, yeah, it really didn't. That was yesterday. I'm not sure why. I'm going to have to look at this with the new site. I'm not sure why that prints today. That was yesterday's article. Anyway, we gave an article yesterday. We talked about the gold market ready to move. It is moving. And, you know, if you paid attention to what's happening in the charts, you could have picked up on it. And we talked about it here. And what basically we talked about was you had a swing point low down here. You tested it. You didn't have the volume, right? That's a perfect case to flip around and go back up and test to the top side. Where did it want to test? It wanted to test back into this bar. It didn't quite get there today, but it came very close. If you're into gold, you should have took some money off into that move if you were watching it. If you didn't, you should have had your trailing stops get you out of it. But you know, expect some sort of a small retrace and get a little ABCD structure going on the way back up and move up to where? Move up to the next bars of resistance, probably up into this area. So gold doing what it should be doing. Let's see, I assume silver's doing the same. If you're trading gold, you can also trade silver. They both move about the same. And that's interesting. Silver not nearly as strong. So here's why. I didn't really pay attention to this one. So this one actually broke below the low, which is another indication of why you don't want to stay in gold that long on the trade. So silver is a different setup. And actually, when you see this kind of a setup, okay, so silver has significant resistance there and there, right, in those areas. Now, what it did though is it broke this low. It did it on suspect volume. So what is that? When you break a low, and you can see it here, what do? You do a retest regen usually. Most of the time that comes within 6 bars. This one came immediately. It's retesting and regenerating off of this large volume bar. The top of that bar is what you want to watch, because if it gets over that, and I believe it's going to have an extremely difficult time getting over it, then that would fail on the regeneration lower. That top is 2051. So if we get up there and into it, right, and regenerate lower, then we'll pull it over here. Oops. Let me get that back up. If we take and look at the weekly charts as well, yeah, so I got under this big bar, then that would regenerate lower and probably take you into the top of this bar. So these are trades when you have to have your time frames here, but these are trades. Silver's telling me that gold is not going to be able to take off and run just yet, which actually matches what we were looking at on the gold chart, and you can see how it pulled back. I expect you'll get a little ABCD structure here to take you up higher while silver does its retest regenerate, and that would probably give silver the opportunity to come up, potentially fail, and regenerate lower. Now, if it gets over it, that's a totally different story, right? Because then that tells you that the buyers are willing to step up at prices where the sellers should have took over. And neoclassical is all about those tests. And so what you do is you watch those tests, you examine how they come into the areas where they should fail. It gives you odds-on percentages to trade them based on how they are trading into the test area and how they trade at the test area. Hopefully that's reasonably clear. Of course, it's easy for me to say. I've been doing it for quite a while, but it gives you high probabilities. TLT, okay, now the TLT is starting to do, this one got up higher than I thought it was. I thought it was going to fail into the bottom of this bar. Okay, now remember, just like we were just talking about on silver, the TLT is doing a retest regen off of what? Off of this bar. Where can it regenerate? How far is that test area? It's all the way to the top of the bar. And so this can test all the way up to here and still be a retest regen, right? Still trying to retest and potentially regenerate lower. That's the test. It got into the bar today. You can see how the sellers came into it. See the long tail? This may not stay here. It may flip around. I expect it is going to fail and regenerate lower, but the real test will be back on this area. How does it deal with this bar as it comes back? Why is that bar important? Because that's where we saw volume come in, right? We know down here from what we've already looked at, this bar and this bar was giving it support. That's what gave us the signal, and we talked about this. That's what gave us the signal that it was going to trade higher. Now we're looking for it to fail, come back, and give us a much clearer indication of whether the near term is going to be down more or this thing really is range trading and one can continue to trade the range. That's the setup over here. That's what the TLT's doing. And if you're watching these markets, you can get off trades in them as they do these things. And I'm sure there's some members on. They can tell you that's what we do, and we do it all the time. JJ, or not JJ. I was thinking about copper. This is junk bonds, a little bounce. They're coming into resistance. They too are coming into a big bar. We'll see how they deal with it. They're having a hard time already, as you can see. Let me look at the UNG and the oil market real quick. Because natural gas had the report came out today. They tried to sell it down. It flipped around. This thing's gonna push back up, and it's doing the same sort of thing on a retest regen. I don't trade this a lot. I do like it, but it's retesting and regenning once already off of this bar it looks to me like what it's going to do is test the larger bar now. I think you may have the bottom finally in natural gas. Let's look at the weekly. Yeah, it's what I don't like is I look at this. What I don't like is I just don't see the big buyers coming in here. Nothing yet. Right? I want to see like back here where we saw volume pick up. Right? That's what I want. I still don't see it. I just don't see it yet. I do see, pretty good volume here, but that's at the lows. That's not where I want to see it. There was decent volume here, but look at the candle. Right? Today was the first day that you saw it, although you saw it flip around. Let me look inside today at the UNG and see what it did. UNG, and put it on 1 day and put it on like 10 minutes. Where's all the volume? The volume came in as it picked up. Yeah, that's a good sign actually. So the buyers, that was the report, and the buyers just stepped into it and bought it. Yeah, that's a good reversal. This thing's gonna, whether it goes that much higher or not, it's gonna do that full retest regen now off the next bar, which is a good sign. It'll have problem up in this resistance area, but that's where it's targeting. Let me look at oil real quick. I know one of the members bought into the oil long today. Oh, this is interesting. Look at this. So oil today, and I know this is what he was watching. He was watching a test of this bar, right? And it came down, tested right into it. That low was 33.50. It tested to 33.45, did 6.3 versus 7.5. Tried to get lower. The sellers disappeared on the sell. The buyers came in. Now remember, we've already had, actually I like this setup a lot. Yeah, this is a nice setup. Okay, and if you don't mind, I'll just spend a little time on this just educationally, because the markets are kind of doing what the markets are doing, and we already know they're trying to go higher. There's not a whole lot more to talk about there. Now it's about finding trades that you can make money off of. This market traded, now it never gave an ABCD structure down. It traded straight down. Right? That straight down move percentage-wise was large. Now you're getting 1, 2 dojis at this support zone. It can't break lower. That support zone is anchored by a swing point low. It's also anchored by this other, well, there's 2 or 3 bars here. But the one that really has the volume was the one back from here. And that high is back in this area, and that's where it's having trouble, right? So on the weekly, it looks good. Now go back to the daily. You had the test we just talked about, plus when you had the previous low, you had a nice volume rise off that low, right? And now you come down, you test again, you can't break lower. You're trying and trying, you can't break lower. This thing's going to flip around, it's going to come right back up and test into this bar. Now that's not a huge move, but percentage-wise it's not a bad move. If this thing opens a little bit lower tomorrow, it gives you a chance, right? It's not a bad trade on the upside. Remember, I'm talking trades here too. I'm not talking long-term stuff. Okay, let me pop over. I want to look at the world markets because I don't have any questions and I haven't looked at them. So let me see what these guys are doing. So let's start with Europe. I want to see what the FTSE... The FTSE's got metals in it. It's the one that's been lagging as a result. And didn't do much of a turn today. Tomorrow will be interesting because tomorrow it will get the benefit of the move that happened later, that happened late today in the metals, because the metal stocks started to move. Yeah, this one's struggling at resistance. You want to see, so what is this one doing? This is what a market should do. It should come back. Most of them won't do it. the indexes themselves. It should come back to a retest regen off the prior swing point high, and you want to see it do it with less volume, which is what this one's doing. The London market looks like it wants to work higher. German DAX. It's going for that. It's going for. Remember, they had the big move bar that we looked at a couple days back on the. The volume came in, wide price move. Excuse me. That was off the ECB rate cut. It's going up to test it. It's going to test it tomorrow. And we already did the FTSE. I wanted to come back to the FTSE one more time though. I want to see if it tested that low. 66.14. No, it didn't. So it's an inside day. Still probably going to try to flip around. Let's look at the French CACs. And not as strong, but they're going back up too. So the German one is leading it. When you get volume up here like this, and you really don't trade that much lower, you're going to come right back at it. They're going to come back at that high. So I would expect tomorrow it tries to get back, over this ledge. There's a ledge here now, right? It gets over the ledge, then it will go back and test that high. So that's the setup. Let's go look at let's look at a weaker one inside there, weaker in the sense of economy. This is the Spanish market. So big, huge ABCD structure completes, tailing off. Volume's not bad on the way back. Yeah, I mean, this looks okay. Let's go to the commodity markets. Let's start with Australia. So they had a big day down. Wonder what that was. 2 days back. What was that? I don't know what that was. So that's interesting. So you have a big day down. The volume really doesn't escalate much. You come into the swing point high, 53.07, 53.07.90, 53.07.70. You miss it by 20 cents. And there's no volume. 8.9 versus 8.7. Well, it can still test into it, but that I was trying to do a retest regen, and it looks to me like even if it tests into it, it's going to regenerate higher. Not sure why it took a hit. I guess it took a hit because I'm looking at the Hang Seng because that's why it took the hit. It took the hit off. It trades with Hang Seng. Took the hit off Hang Seng, traded down. That was why. So I don't think that's a big deal. Toronto Exchange. Let me see what this one is. Going back to the highs today, and that exchange still looks great. And then let me look at Brazil right quick. Brazil. And the reason I like these is because they give us an indication of what China's doing, because they're so tied to it. No volume today, huge wide price spread bar though. Okay, there's a question over here real quick, I'll take it. And it had to do with, I was saying that, when you get a wide price spread bar and the volume, expands, a lot of times what happens is that sets up a range trade, and you can see it. I brought this stock's attention to the members about 3 days ago. It alarmed on the trading signals. It alarmed on this breakout right here. I traded it the next day, made some good money on it. I traded out of it that night, wanted to trade back into it the next day, missed it. Okay? But what you have happening here is this thing is a new stock, right? You have huge volume expansion. You go up, you set a high volume bar that's ugly. In other words, it's a black candle, right? So that sellers took over into the day. That volume expansion after a fast move, and folks, this was like 35% in 3 days, 4 days. That's sort of a trade when it does that. That sets up a range trade, right? So you're gonna see a range trade set up. It may trade a little bit higher tomorrow, and it may even have more volume tomorrow and push even higher. But when it finally caps out, wherever it caps out, that's going to define the range for some period of time to come. Now you can trade the range, right? You can trade this area, and you want to trade it from the long side, not the short side. And so what you want to do is you want to let this thing settle out, tell you where the top is, and then watch it retrace into strength, like here, right? You can buy that first pullback into that area, right? Trade it back to the top of the range, get out, but know it's not going to go higher again probably, right? And you can range trade these things and make good money on them and have the odds hugely on your side. Folks, I hope you had a great one. Hopefully I taught you something there. As always, I'm L.A. Little. This is and was your daily TA wrap. Expect this market to try to push again tomorrow. It's on its infinite up. It's forcing people to buy. There are no sellers. Will be no sellers probably until the end of the year. Don't fight it. Have a great one. Take care. Good night, folks.